You've heard the use case, you've seen some of the key criteria we need to make this a fully autonomous agentic AI-based solution. But how about building this and then building it for production? What are the key considerations then? And this is where Amazon Bedrock AgentCore comes into play. So things like deploying our agents at scale, things like identity management across this whole flow and security, accessing the holidaymakers data, being able to access the tools that they're allowed to access, things like memory. How do we ensure that our agents can access memory at scale, short-term memory, long-term memory? How can we ensure that our agents have the right tools available for them to get the job done? And there may be thousands of tools, right? How do we manage 1,000+ tools that are available for our AI agents? And how about observability? How can we ensure that our agents are actually taking the right action? How can we monitor their thought process or their chain of thought? And how can we look at things like token utilization from the LLMs that these agents are using for reasoning, because that will determine the cost of running this solution as well. This is where Amazon Bedrock AgentCore comes in, and we're going to be deep diving this in the next video. Welcome to this YouTube and LinkedIn series, and we're going to be talking about how you can take your agentic based AI solutions from POC all the way to production, and what are the key considerations when taking solutions like this into production, and how you can do that utilizing AWS native services going forward. But before we do that, we're going to actually build this out from a use case where humans are doing all the work, trouble with scaling, for example, and how we can actually utilize autonomous agents to help us scale our business and then take that into production from POC. So anyone can join. We're going to start really from the ground up. So just keep following. We're going to build this up block by block over this video series over the next couple of weeks. Let's get started. So our use case is really, really simple. Everyone can follow this. We have a holiday maker who'd like to actually book a holiday. So we'll just call them our holiday maker right here. So this is our holiday maker, and they are interested in taking a holiday in the Middle East for New Year's. They would love to go and see the New Year's fireworks on the Burj Khalifa. Holiday maker. And they have spoken to their local travel agent in the past or recently around Middle East based holidays, looking for packages and so on. And now they're back with a more specific request. So they're saying, I want to go to Dubai around the Christmas period and New Year's, and basically, from the 20th all the way up to the 3rd or 4th of January 2026. And I want to go and see the fireworks on the Burj Khalifa on New Year's Eve. So they make a call to our travel agent, and our travel agent is their regular travel agent. So they've booked holidays with them before, and so they're very familiar with our holiday maker. There we go. Now our travel agent will ask a couple of questions to some of the key criteria. He'll also maybe have spoken to this holiday maker in the past, so he knows who they are, or he or she. There may also be a record on their database around this holiday maker's preferences. They only book above 4-star and above, or they only go like commercial airlines and so on and so on. And then the additional criteria, like, it has to be around the Christmas and New Year's period, because I want to go and see the fireworks on the Burj Khalifa in Dubai. So the travel agent collects all that information, and in a small agency, the travel agent will probably do all the work. But look, we're talking about this travel agent specifically taking 150 calls per day. So there's a few agents that take those calls, and they've been struggling to scale their business for a number of years. And they would like their business to go up to like 500 calls per day to 1,000 calls per day, but they simply don't have that capacity. But what they do have is they have specialist teams, a couple of specialist teams that help with specifics for flight bookings and specifics for hotel bookings and reservations, and what the options are in that scenario. So let's add our flight booking specialist in. So this is our flight booking specialist, and his or her job is basically, we'll just call them spec. Their job is basically to find the best flights based on the holiday maker's range that they've provided, and come back with hopefully some good prices and or some good packages. Maybe they have a deal with some of the airlines in terms of offers that they can give the holiday maker, and feed that back. And the other thing to point out, this is always going to be two-way communication, because you're on the phone or you're on an email, or you're on a little internal chat, and you're saying, you know, this is what I need. Flight person says, this is what I have, blah, blah, blah. There's a to and fro conversation, and they're iterating on the response, saying, yeah, this is not good enough, this is good enough, so on and so on. And the way that the flight specialists would have a look at the flights, they'll have a look at the flight booking system or reservation system in terms of what offers are available. Maybe they'll go to specific airlines. So we'll just call this flight bookings, or flight, yeah, we'll just call it bookings. There we go. Flight bookings. And again, our specialists will use that system on a regular basis, so they're super familiar with it. Again, they'll ask a question, or they'll do a quick search, see what comes up, maybe amend their search. When they're happy, they'll feed that back to the travel agent. If he's happy with that from what the customer wants in terms of the holiday maker, remember Dubai, New Year's Eve, fireworks, then they'll feed that back to our holiday maker. Also, we have our hotel reservation specialists. So again, their job is to find the best deals from hotels for our customer. So we just say hotels, hotel reservations, or we'll just call them hotel specialists. So we just call it spec. And again, they have access to the hotel booking system. Again, they may have specific deals with certain chains of hotels, for example. So they might get really good discounts. They'll check their system, and they'll check the hotel reservation system. We'll just say hotel res. And again, that would be two-way. Simple, right? And this would also be, just go over my head, to our travel agent. They would feed that back to the travel agent, who would then say, you know what, this is good, but the holiday maker said they wanted specific dates around Jan to come back, and your dates are a little too far out because they don't have the time to take off from work. So can you go back and check everything again? So there's that iteration loop. And then once the travel agent is happy, he would feed that back to the holiday maker and get that reservation booked. So you can see there's a lot of to and fro. It's quite a time consuming task. And when you're trying to scale your business from 150 calls per day all the way up to hundreds and thousands of calls per day, it can become pretty difficult, especially with that constant to and flow from across all of these different specialists and the different flight systems and hotel booking systems that you have available to you. So that's the use case. A holiday maker wants to book a holiday. They want to go to Dubai at New Year's to watch the fireworks on the Burj Khalifa. So they ring up their travel agent. And again, remember, this travel agent can only scale up to 150 calls per day. They're super struggling. They'd like to go up to 500 to 1,000 calls per day and then scale further over subsequent years. But they're really stuck at this level. And the travel agent collects the information, i.e. what does this holiday maker want to do? It knows them from the past. It then speaks to the flight specialist and the hotel specialist and looks for the best bookings for them over that period of time in Dubai to see those fireworks on the Burj Khalifa. Feeds that back to the holiday maker. Once they're happy, they make that booking. So when you talk about the iteration and the feedback loop, it's continuous. It takes time. The agents are working round the clock and spending probably 20 to 30 minutes per customer to get the information and to feed it back to them, to give them the options that they need to help make that decision. So in terms of agent utilization and flight specialists and hotel utilization, it's super high. Productivity is extremely difficult in terms of the time it takes to process or to actually get a holiday booked for our holiday maker in this case. So how can we scale? Now, what if we swapped out each of our specialists here, the travel agent, the hotel specialist, and the flight specialist with AI agents? Now, we could actually utilize AI agents to actually communicate with the holiday maker to collect the information in terms of what is the outcome that the holiday maker wants, in terms of what is that goal. So that information is being collected right here. So let's just drop that also in here, because these are key points that everyone needs to be aware of. To make this system fully autonomous and agentic AI, there needs to be a goal so that AI agents understand what am I trying to achieve, and then it will figure out how do I go about doing that, and then it will speak to, for example, the flight specialist AI agent, who will then get his information or their information from the booking system, so on and so on. Okay, the other thing that we need to consider, and it's easy for us as humans, we get a response, we're like, you know what, I don't like this. This is not exactly what I asked for. Maybe the return date is too far into January and it's not, you know, 2nd or 3rd as I wanted. As a travel agent, we could say to our flight specialist, look, can you find something a bit closer to the 2nd or the 3rd of Jan? So we can provide that feedback back to our flight specialist to give an answer. So reflection or iteration on the response from our AI agent who's the flight specialist to our AI travel agent is key. So iteration and reflection on the response to say, you know what, this is okay, it's close but not close enough. Can you try again with a slightly different criteria and see if we can get a better response back? And it's measuring that against the goal. So iteration is key. Being able to iterate and say, yeah, interact with your external environment and say, yeah, this is not good enough yet. Well, I'm saying interact, we'll just say iteration, yeah? Iteration or reflection, as I tend to call it. So being able to reflect on the response and say, yeah, this doesn't really meet our goals. And some of these elements of our goal were super strict, so we need to make sure we meet them for our holiday maker to book that. So iteration, reflection. What else do we need to make this fully autonomous in terms of agentic AI? So you can see here that our AI agent from a flight specialist perspective is accessing an external system, flight bookings. And our hotel specialist or AI hotel specialist is accessing hotel reservations. And that could be an external system, it could be an internal systems. And in reality, there could be hundreds of agents accessing hundreds and thousands of different external systems, internal systems to carry out the roles that they need to do. Now, in this case, we could refer to them as tools. So these are tools available to our agents to get their jobs done. And there could be hundreds of thousands of tools. So tools is important. The agent needs to know what tools it has available to it to actually carry out the job at hand. So tools is key. Okay, what else do we need? Right. When the holiday maker calls a travel agent, the travel agent's like, I spoke to you last week. I remember speaking to you last week. And the key word is remember. And I also have your details and other notes from other agents that you spoke to over the number of years. So the travel agent, the human travel agent, can either recall from their own memory and also look up certain bits of data from past discussions with the holiday maker, look at what they've booked in the past. And remember, this holiday maker is a regular user of this travel agency. So they have preferences. Only hotels that are 4-star and above, only commercial airlines or large commercial airlines, not budget airlines, are only like aisle seats. So these are preferences. So our travel agent can actually access those preferences from their database, from their notes, from their own memory. How do our AI agents get that information? And again, it will be from tools and it will be from short-term memory and long-term memory. So you can see I've dropped the brain in there from a memory perspective. So the agents have to be able to access memory and tools to get the information around the holiday maker. Short-term memory for things like the current discussion and session, long-term memory for things like past discussions, preferences of this specific holiday maker. And the whole point of this is to give the AI agent context and to provide a context-aware response back to our holiday maker. Remember, the holiday maker doesn't want a generic response. He or she's been a regular customer of this agency for years. They want to get a context-aware response based on their preferences, their needs, their past discussions, and so on. So memory is key. Okay, so from a fully agentic AI-based autonomous system, we're talking about goals, iteration and reflection. We're talking about making available tools in a standardized kind of way. We'll talk about how you can do that from a technical perspective, and then making sure our AI agents have access to memory where they can retrieve information, preferences, past discussions, and they can write back to memory to say, this is the current discussion I'm having with this holiday maker, and make sure that in future discussions, these memories that are being created now are accessible later on. And this allows our agents to be fully autonomous, fully agentic from that perspective going forward. You've heard the use case, you've seen some of the key criteria we need to make this a fully autonomous agentic AI-based solution. But how about building this and then building it for production? What are the key considerations then? And this is where Amazon Bedrock AgentCore comes into play. So things like deploying our agents at scale, things like identity management across this whole flow and security, accessing the holidaymakers data, being able to access the tools that they're allowed to access, things like memory. How do we ensure that our agents can access memory at scale, short-term memory, long-term memory? How can we ensure that our agents have the right tools available for them to get the job done? And there may be thousands of tools, right? How do we manage 1,000+ tools that are available for our AI agents? And how about observability? How can we ensure that our agents are actually taking the right action? How can we monitor their thought process or their chain of thought? And how can we look at things like token utilization from the LLMs that these agents are using for reasoning, because that will determine the cost of running this solution as well. This is where Amazon Bedrock AgentCore comes in, and we're going to be deep diving this in the next video.